Welcome to the Juggling Mind and Money podcast with Steve Rowe and Jessica Schlupp-Taylor. Steve Rowe is the founder of Lucent Financial Planning and an award-winning independent financial planner. He helps you to use your money and have a great life. Jess Schlupp-Taylor is a psychologist supporting people through change, challenges, and forks in the road of life. Together, they will help unblock the sludge in your mind, stopping you from achieving financial and psychological happiness.
Hello and welcome to episode 37 of Juggling Mind and Money, and it's a very special one. I'm Steve Rowe, Chartered Financial Planner and founder of Lucent Financial Planning, and now normally we'd have Jess here with me, but today it's just me and a special guest I've been wanting to speak with for years. If you work in financial planning, or if you've ever wondered what money is really for, you'll know the name George Kinder. Well, we haven't only got the name, we've got the person. George is often called the father of life planning, and his work changed the direction of financial planning across the world. And his books, including The 7 Stages of Money Maturity and Lighting the Torch, have shaped how advisors and clients think about money, meaning and freedom. And also his latest book, The 3 Domains of Freedom. George, thank you so much for being here today. It's an honour to have you. Thank you very much. How are you?
I'm great. I just did a 9,000 step, because I could count my steps, walk across Hampstead Heath. And it was just, we did it with my wife and I did it. And we met a young man just at the end of the street, and we walked with him, and he's 22 years old. And I learned so much about young people, and it was just so much fun to be doing it. So I'm doing great this morning.
And you listen to the birds on Hampstead Heath, don't you?
I do. Ever since I talked with you and I learned that you were recording them, that meant something to me.
It's great. Well, it helps you learn which birds are singing, actually. So
it does. Yeah.
It's quite good. So, George, what brings you to the UK? Because you're not from these parts, I can tell.
How can you tell, Steve? I got an innovator founder visa to launch a startup, a global startup, from London. And it took me a long time. I had to write a business plan. I've never written a business plan before in my life. And it took a long time, and it was very challenging. They told me when I submitted it that it would take them at least 4 weeks to get back to me. And I Googled, and it said 4 months.
Oh.
And I thought, oh, geez, I still got kids in uni, and I have my wife, and how are we going to work all this out? 9 days later, not 4 weeks or 4 months, 9 days later, I heard from them that they had given me the innovator founder visa. And it's there's a few hundred people a year that get it, but it's the thing is, I was up against all the AI geeks, all the software developers, and here I am, and what am I doing? I'm teaching people how to listen.
Well, you were fast-tracked then, weren't you?
I was fast-tracked, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They wanted me. But I wanted to come, Steve, because I mean, the truth is, I get down into my heart and I go, I love being here. I've visited the UK several months a year for probably 20 years now. And I just love it. I love I love every part that I've been to. I spend most of my time in London and Cornwall, but I really like it.
So tell us about your business plan, because it's actually not a plan anymore. It's an actual business, isn't it? The Moules.
Right.
I don't know whether to pronounce the S or not.
Well, I pronounce the S just because that's how they pronounced the island that I kind of named it for. But it really is, as you know, it's Moules is mussels, so the sea creature, and it's a kind of a cool name, because what people don't realize is that mussels clear the water of all of its impurities.
Okay.
So in a way, that's part of what we're about at the Moules. The Moules is part of a much grander scheme that I know we'll talk about, because I'm here because I want to do something. I'm I'm turning 78 in a few days, and I would like to really accomplish something and do something as large as I possibly can in the decade or two that I have left. And so the Moules is a business venture connected to that larger mission, and it's based on the idea that businesses aren't nearly as productive as they could be, primarily because of their relationship to their own people, but also to the communities around them and all of that. There was a study by Bain and Company in 2017 that showed that inspired workers are 125% more productive than
Wow.
just a satisfied worker. And most of us have in our businesses, we've got satisfied workers. We know we do. But to have somebody who's more than twice as productive as they would normally have been, that's incredible. And we know technology, and you know where it all comes from, but we know ways to really inspire people. And so there's kind of an artificial barrier between most CEOs and all the workers. So the
Yeah.
workers don't dare tell the CEO who they really are, who they really want to be, because they might jeopardize their position or their future. And we want to convey to the CEOs that, gosh, forget about that barrier. If you really encourage your people to flourish, and we can show you how, you'll have a workforce that's twice as productive. Uh,
So that's why you were fast track then,
I
isn't it,
guess.
George?
I guess it was. Yeah. Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
have a productivity problem in the UK. Um,
I've
that
heard. Yeah.
well, I've only
Yes.
been told.
Yeah.
You, you hear about it on the news a lot. So,
Yeah.
tell us how then you're going to help with that. Make us productive, George.
Yeah. All right.
How can
Okay.
we inspire people?
Okay. All right. So there's three productivity gaps that are really pretty large. One of them is that uh, is this notion that I can't tell you, if you're my boss, who I really want to be. So I'm constantly working. I'm not revealing who I really am, whether I want to be with my kids or I want to play the guitar on the beaches of the Mediterranean, or I only think I want to work here for another 6 months or so. I don't dare tell people because it might jeopardize where I am right now. And um, and there's a way that I've taught for years, 30 years in 30 countries, called life planning, that really inspires people to live the life that the most fulfilled life they can have. So there's a way of introducing that to a workforce where if the C-suite says, we believe in you ahead of your role, we want you to flourish even more than we want your role to be successful for our business because you're a human being. We want you to flourish. And we know if you're flourishing, you're going to flourish at your work. So that's the first productivity gap, is that gap of one's own life. And the second productivity gap is that and that's a huge gap, by the way. And the second productivity gap is that 90% of Gen Z and millennials want to work for a mission-driven firm,
Yeah,
a firm that and often as CEOs we feel, well, we're mission-driven, and we're doing good work and all that, but the people don't always, they might appreciate it, but they don't always experience it.
they're
And
thinking, what is he on
yeah,
about now?
exactly. Exactly. And what would I do if I were doing this? And so we have a way of really taking those missions, looking at broader missions as well, and kind of integrating them and then making them very personal to every employee so that the employee now feels like, wow, my company really stands for something. And they are helping me to stand for that part of it that is extraordinary to me. So that mission, only 18% of people feel like the company that they work for has values that are their values. So it's a big gap between 90% and 18%. That's huge. So we can close that gap and raise productivity that way. And then the third way is this thing that involves mindfulness a bit, but this one's an extraordinary one that people are just beginning to recognize. And Scientific American, the easy one, I'm not going to tell you the study, but Scientific American in December of 2024, a little over a year ago, came out with a study that showed that listening, when we listen in a way with our whole body, with our feelings, with everything, that listening is 100 million times faster than thinking. And I know we're in the same profession in a
Yeah.
way, and our business is all about thinking and thinking rapidly and all this. And by closing down, by thinking, by replacing listening with thinking, we're actually slowing down the transformational changes that could occur, the creativity, the degree of focus that can occur. So we can also close that gap enormously.
How does that work then, George? So if um, listening is 100 million, whatever it was, times
Times
quicker
as
than
fast.
thinking,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how is that because someone else's thoughts are already formed, or how is that?
Yeah, so it's really all of our senses. It's listening with our eyes, listening with our ears, it's listening with our skin and sensations, listening with aromas. So it's embodying all of our senses, and that they're all operating at an extremely fast pace, much faster than we can ploddingly along think our thoughts. So, if you close your eyes and you meditate, you'll see many more things happening than you could put words to in the amount of time that you're sitting there. If you and I just closed our eyes for a minute and thought, what did I just see? And I'd see a you, and I'd see the kind of the gray and the black and the streaks of light across, and kind of is that a window? Is it plastic? I'd see the angles and all these things. So there's all these words. I see you have glasses, and your glasses have a tint to them, and I see the shape of your face. All of these things in just a moment we experience. So that's how rapid our listening is, and much faster than how we can articulate it with our thought. Um, and if we include more of that, if we include it in a subtle way and in sensitive ways, thoughtful ways, we gain huge emotional intelligence
Yeah.
because when we're doing it with our feelings, we're not racing and reactive. We're more thoughtful. We're less ego driven. We're less driven by a self concern. We are more able to focus because we've slowed our mind down and practiced. And by listening and focusing on something, we're strengthening focus tremendously. We are able to think outside the box a lot more because we're not driven by strands of thought. So all of these things are huge in terms of productivity in a business, and we collaborate better. We're more connected with other people as well. So.
There's loads of advantages to it then. I know I want to come back to meditation later,
Oh yeah, sure.
actually. But I know you've trained thousands of financial planners around the world.
Yeah.
So, and without revealing all your secrets, because I know it's a new business, but how in the Moules will you help businesses act like this and inspire people that work with them?
Yeah. So what we'll do is we have a signature workshop that's a day, and now we're adding a second day, and the second day is taking it into the business. So the first day just works with these three productivity gaps. The one that where I want my every worker's life to flourish, every person's life to flourish. So you help them see how they can flourish in their own lives. And that's something, we can do in an hour. I mean, it's really amazing what we can do because of what I've, done, what's been my profession for 30 years. And but then we bring in terms of mission driven, we look at the company's mission,
Mm.
and then we look at other ways of the fiduciary behavior, meaning putting others' interest ahead of our own. So that's kind of what mission driven, the essence of it is. So, how we put the clients first, how we might be involved with people, planet, and profit if we're at all intrigued by B corporations or conscious capitalism. And then we've got something called fiduciary in all things, which includes truth and democracy. So, we bring all of that together and inspire people. And then we also inspire them around this mindfulness piece. We teach them how they can actually become smarter So once we've done that in the first workshop's profoundly inspiring. And then the second workshop, what we're doing, and sometimes we skip the second workshop and just go into the business. But
Yeah.
in the second workshop, what we're doing is we're getting operations. We're looking at all the different ways that in a company, like in company meetings, how can you be more honoring of the flourishing quality of each individual's life? How can you be more honoring of um, silence, of listening? How can you be more honoring of the mission that we're all on together and individually? So we're looking at embedding that in operations in a series of ways, and hugely around when people meet, when people gather together. Um,
So is it going to be in um, not in direct partnership, but like a B Corp? Is it adding to that or helping people
yeah.
to get towards that?
Well, that's another piece. And again, you're right. I've just started this. It's less than a year old, and we are now designing a designate. You're ahead of me, Stephen. You're ahead of me.
Sorry.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, we're
So,
just looking at becoming a B Corp ourselves.
oh, you are. Oh, yeah,
Yeah, we're just starting down that track.
yeah. So, yeah. Tell
Because
me.
I believe this stuff in
Yeah,
terms of, what you can do well by helping others.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be for you to do well. Someone else must do badly, which I think
That's right.
is kind of capitalism. Is
At its
the
worst. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
yeah, but that's
yeah,
how most people think of it.
yeah.
Um, but altruism is how we've, as humans or species, has got where we are. I think. What?
Totally. Yes.
And we should be encouraging that more and get people to see it. So, having a label like B Corp, like this is what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So, I believe that it's good for business because it's good for everyone. Um, that's where
That's
I'm coming from.
Yeah, that's very exciting to me to hear. I mean, I'm inspired, like, because there aren't that many. I mean, there are 10,000 across the world, and the UK is a leader in them, which is one of the reasons I'm here, because
Is
I,
it? I didn't know that.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, North America was, and America was originally, but you've had great leadership. Chris Turner has led the B Lab community for the last number of years, and he's a really terrific and inspiring leader. And and you now have 2,500 B corporations in the United Kingdom, and America has 2,500. So it's like, and the city of
Hey,
London, where I'm launching my organization, has 1,000 of those 2,500. So one of the reasons I'm here is, yes, we're doing something that we think dovetails beautifully. We will be supportive. We think we can make B corporations stronger, because if you look at what they've got, a lot of rules and regulations. But as you know from knowing my work, what we do is inspire people.
yeah.
And the B corporation, inspires you up here, and you're doing good and inspires the community reading about it, but it doesn't give the energy that we give. So we have something that supplements them in a beautiful way, and also we use it to encourage people to take, hey, we can be the next step. If you're not ready to be a B Corp, we can be the next step. Or and so that's so it's very related to that. The fiduciary in all things will be a designation, but it will be a designation like B Corp. And we hope that many B Corps will have that designation as well, and that many fiat companies will have the B Corp designation. But it will be a designation that's a little bit looser and more about the energy or the spirit with which you are working and engaging with the world around you. Less regulatory.
Did you come up with fiat, fiduciary, and all things?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Cracking. So that's great, George. I feel quite proud that we're got the 2,500 B Corps. That's brilliant. That we're
Amazing. Yeah.
pound for pound punching above our weight. That's good. Um, I haven't read that anywhere, so that's good.
Yeah, no, it's
Happening.
incredible, man. It's really amazing. It may be more than all of North America. It may be more than America and Canada. Canada has quite a few as well. But the UK is really I think of them as the leader. And I wanted to be in this community. America's going through a huge turmoil right now, and I know the UK has struggles as well, but I felt the UK was closer to civility and closer
Okay.
to democracy than what's currently happening in America. And I thought, I want to launch something that might be global, and it might be tougher to do it in America. It might be a better place to do it here. And of course, the UK is compact compared to America, so it's easy to have, as you say, punch above your weight. If you
Easier to get around.
yeah, right on. Yeah,
You're a great fella, George. I really hope that succeeds,
thank you.
because it'll be good for everyone,
Yeah,
won't it?
hope so.
Just need people to realise that helping other people helps
Yeah,
you.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah,
And so, George, I suppose we better talk about financial advice a bit,
yeah.
since
Sure. Yeah,
this is what we do.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, what you used to do, you've expanded it. So, you kind of invented it, didn't you? Life planning. Um, Explain what that is to people. Any of our clients, I hope you know what that is, because that's what I do with you. If you haven't noticed,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
give me a shout. But explain what life planning is, and why it's good.
yeah. So, uh, let me explain it for a moment in terms of the term fiduciary.
Okay.
Fiduciary is not a term that everybody knows what it means. In financial services, mostly we know what it means. Lawyers tend to know what it means. And the best, largest version of it would be that we place other people's concerns ahead of our own. So a fiduciary is someone that you would trust in a professional capacity. And so the movement that I've created is called Fiduciary in All Things, because we think that's the way all institutions should behave. That all that idea started with me, with my work, for me at least, being a fiduciary toward my clients as a financial advisor, just as you are, and your company, your great company, Lucent. And so I think really good advisors always know, and maybe everybody always knows, but they just don't know how to do it. That you want to place your clients first. They're if you don't, you're doing them. It's almost like you're immoral or unethical. Uh, so but what is life planning? So putting your client first in a fiduciary capacity in the past has meant, how do you charge them? You don't want to charge them in a way that's unfair, or where
Yeah.
you're taking advantage of them. And what I realized is that um, the money. A lot of people talk about being fiduciary to the money, but what I wanted, I when a client came into my office, I knew that money was there for them to live the very best life they could possibly live, and that I didn't know what that was, and no textbook could tell me what it was. No mutual fund company could tell me what it was. That the only way I could discover what would be the very best life for this person that money could foster would be to become a really good listener. And so it's grounded in listening, but then we ask inspiring and challenging questions. Mostly we listen because it's the client's meeting. We want the client to go and tell us where they want to go with their life and who they want to be. Um, so we ask three questions, kind of classically. Might as well share them. And the first question is, if you had all the money that you needed for the rest of your life, what would you do? So that's kind of, you win the
Yeah.
lottery, you go, woohoo! Yeah, exactly. Just go for it. And that's kind of fun. And so everybody can answer that question, right? But then we go deeper. That question gives us permission with the client. They go, oh, okay, I get it. I'm going for something. So the next question is, if you discovered you had only had 5 to 10 years left to live, what would you do then? And for our older clients, we might make it shorter. We might say 3 to 5 years, but typically 5 to 10 years left to live. What would you do differently? And that gets deeper, right? It goes more to
Yeah.
relationships, to family, maybe some legacy stuff. And then the final question is really challenging, but deep and meaningful, and people get inspired from it. because it stirs them up so much. And that is, if you went to the doctor, they'd been doing tests, and they revealed to you that they misdiagnosed you, and suddenly you realized that you only had 24 hours left to live. You're in the doctor's office. The question is not what are you going to go do with those 24 hours, but what did you miss? Reflecting on all the things you'd anticipated becoming or doing or being. What did you miss? Who did you not get to be? What did you not get to do?
The regrets.
They're kind of regrets and longings and yearnings, and they're things that might have excited you and inspired you if you'd had time to do them, and as well as regrets. And so that and with that piece of information with a client, we just collaborate to create something, a vision of a life that's incredibly inspiring for the client. Incredibly inspiring. Yeah. And then they go for it. So there's this energy that, like I was talking about productivity gaps in business. Well, this is the same thing. It's a productivity gap in all of our lives that we've often held ourselves back from something. I used to have something that I'd say, well, I'll get to that in a couple of years. And I remember, like,
Yeah.
12 years later, I realized I still haven't done it. And so I think most of us have that kind of thing. We
I
make
think,
sure we make sure those things happen. What do you think, Steve?
sorry, George. I think sometimes you have dreams, but actually it is the dream, and that you enjoy the dream rather than actually doing it.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not so bad not doing some of the things.
That may be true.
Because it's just nice to have a dream. But also, I think people come to us and they're so caught up in what they already have, or what they could get, rather than thinking, what could I be?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it's
Very much so.
so much more fulfilling, to be who you want to be rather than get what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's something about inspiration there, Steve, that I've discovered that is extraordinary and been made a real difference in my own life. I've kept those three questions very close to my heart. And whenever a few times a year, I'll look at them, and if ever anything happens that kind of shakes me, I lose a friend. There's a problem in the business. My children or my wife have something that's a real crisis and has shifted everything in the family, something, anything. And I'll go to them again. And I look at what would inspire me to move forward. What would really, and fill my heart? What would give me a sense of flourishing? And what I've learned is act on it. As soon as you see it, boy,
Do it.
act on it. Go for it. Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause otherwise it's too late sometimes.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel that a lot. I've lost
Do
some
you?
people, and I think, the times where I'll go and see such and such, and then you don't, and then that person will see they've gone, and you
Yeah.
can't anymore. And you're
That's
like,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
So George, I've been reading your book, which very nicely and kindly of you signed for me. The new book, The Three Domains of Freedom. And explain the three domains to me. I was just going to read them out then, but I thought I'll learn quicker, 100 million times quicker if you tell me. And
Well, reading them out ain't bad because they're each of them's profound. So the three domains of freedom and the subtitles, in a way, say it all, but then they get deeper and really quite extraordinary. And it's a short book. It's a brief book. If we're on camera, you can read it in an hour and a quarter if you just sat down and read it straight through. But it also it provokes deep thought and reflection. So the three domains of freedom. First domain: each moment is yours, and just kind of reflecting on, pausing around that, you realize, oh wow, yeah, I mean, I've never thought about that before, but and then there are ways of making, and then you feel more calm, more at peace, more like your life is yours in a way. And that's the second one. The second one, so each moment is yours is the first one. The second one is your life is yours. And there we're really talking about this notion of life planning, that if you design your life where you're really going for what is the most flourishing life you could possibly have, and you're fine-tuning it at least every couple of years, you go back and look at it again and make sure you're on target, that's an incredibly powerful way to live, because you're passionate about who you are and who you're moving toward and how you're doing your life. That's incredible. So your life is yours. That's life planning. That's a great financial planner is a great life planner. And then the third one is civilization is yours. And that's one we are struggling with right now.
The whole
But
world's struggling with it.
the whole world is struggling with it, exactly. And it seems so crazy because most of us grow up hearing that we're a democracy and we believe in freedom. And certainly the UK and the US has been, world leaders in that, and many people from many countries. So will speak to that about us. And so civilization is yours. So what I am trying to do there is say, it's actually time to make that even much stronger. It's time to take the next leap beyond democracy that includes democracy. But what is the next leap that would actually mean that our children and our children's children will look at us and go, how could you live the way you used to live? And just because the world is so trustworthy, and the frame of it, I've called it fiat or fiduciary in all things, FIAT. But the general frame involves this question. So as your listeners are listening or watching, ask yourself this question: how would it feel to you if every institution you encountered, every corporation, government, nonprofit, every institution was trustworthy and humane in everything it did? How how would it feel? So park your skepticism, park your cynicism, just allow yourself to feel it, because that's the first step of making a change. Allow yourself to feel it. And then ask yourself, how would your life change if that occurred? What would you be doing differently? And when I ask that question of audiences, um, people they feel safer, they feel comfort, they feel more entrepreneurial, they feel more ability to speak to their neighbors. They feel more kindness coming up inside of themselves. Civilization is yours. It's time to make that happen. And that's what my movement is about, fiduciary in all things. It's time to make that happen worldwide, all over the world. Has to happen. Otherwise, the earth might not be sustainable. Humanity might not be sustainable. And your B Corp, I'm so thrilled, because B Corps are part of that. Are saying,
We're not yet.
yeah, all right, go for it though.
We just started to look at it. We'll do it.
And look at fiat too, man.
Well, I will, certainly. So I think if we trusted every company to do the right thing all the time, how much mental load would that take off everyone? There's so much time, isn't there, and spent in contracts and law, fighting these sort of things.
Yeah.
And you just wouldn't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
And you could think about nice things, like listening to the birds, that sort of stuff.
That's a really good point, Steve. I don't know that anybody has ever specifically made that point before. You're right on. You're right at the heart of everything. But in terms of contracts and law, and one of the things that I've argued and that people are stunned by is that this would be a world that would have a lot less regulations in it, because the leaders that would be trained to take on those big institutions would always be placing the truth and democracy, the planet and people, humanity, ahead of their own self-concern. So they wouldn't be trying to get an edge that might take advantage of our values, human values. Yeah.
With your life is yours and civilization is yours, I do worry that for some people, I think we all know who they are, right? Their freedom is kind of oppressing others.
Yeah.
Um, and that's a concern. Like they might take this and say, well, for me to feel free, I need to be doing this. Um,
Yeah.
trying to, not prevent them, but quell those feelings in other people where they just want to take over or control.
Right. Right. Right.
Have you got any thoughts about that and
Yeah.
how they could be educated?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which sounds the wrong word. That sounds a bit oppressive in itself because it's
Yeah.
external thoughts being placed on someone else, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think that holds us back in a way from making the change, because we don't want to do that. We want to respect everybody's freedom. And the one of the things that kind of stunned me, because I approached this with kind of, why aren't we doing this? Why isn't this already happening? If humanity really wants all of this, and democracy is a major model for the best of humanity right now, why aren't we doing it? And I thought about it, and I thought about the economics, really, and economics are so important. And the um, I thought about how in uh, in America and also in the world, and I know the statistics in the UK are relatively similar, but in America there are 3 billionaires, the richest of them, that own as much as 180 million people, right?
That's half the country, basically, isn't it?
Half the country. And
Yeah.
and how can they feel community? How can they be part of the community that we are as a human species with that kind of? And in the world, it's 26 billionaires own as much as 3.8 billion. 3.8 billion people. And so I think when you talk about their freedom, what I realized when I looked at that, because in democracy, the notion is that democracy has a fiduciary standard, a standard of care, where they place the people first. So we all have a vote and all of that. And I thought, well, what is the fiduciary model if three people own as much as 180 million? Is that democracy? Or is it the excesses of capitalism? Is it really shareholder fiduciary? And I think that's what it is. So I think the notion, there is an education, that's a good term in some ways, of what fiduciary is. But I think, frankly, we need a movement that says, enough already. We want to make sure you speak. We want to make sure everybody speaks. We want to make sure the media speaks the truth all the time. We want to make sure corporations do. We want to end corruption. And we want to have leaders that have those values even more than the values of profit. And I think we can do that. I think we can do that. That's what I'm trying to stimulate and make happen.
George, with all the billionaires now, do you think they are worse people than the uber wealthy of, say, 150 years ago, like in the Gilded Age? Or is it just because we're living now, so we don't know all the nasty capitalists, let's say, 150 years ago? Because we've forgotten, but we
Yeah,
do remember the great philanthropists of that time.
we do. We do.
Our current billionaires doing similar things, we just don't hear about it as much,
Yeah.
or are
Yeah.
we just ignoring it because it's now? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that human nature we've probably gotten better on the whole as human nature, when you're talking about the almost 8 billion people that are on the planet now, because we are not so much subsistence. We have more that we can relax around. We've got more time. We've got more leisure. Um, when we contrast the great billionaires of today with the essentially billionaires of the Gilded Age, um, I think they're there's a lot of similarities. There were horrible people in the Gilded Age. There were people who, like the Pinkerton guards, coming in America and shooting all the labor protesters, and I mean, there were horrible things that happened, as well as great philanthropy that occurred. But I think that what the main issue is that, for me, all that resource being tied up in just 26 people in the world, all of those resources being tied up in those people, means that a huge amount of entrepreneurial endeavor, a huge amount of kindness and compassion is being blocked just because of that huge degree of inequality. And so I think in many ways, the first thing we need to do is really alert people and say, no, we want, it's humanity's time. It's not about you guys, you billionaires. It's about humanity, and we want to gather together and learn to be a great earth-based community.
Okay, so any billionaires listening to this podcast today,
we want you as clients anyway.
Well, not especially, but please come on the show, and then we can talk about how you feel as a billionaire, you and your mates, and what you get up to, and how you could perhaps release some entrepreneurialism in other people. Right, George, I've got a hard-hitting question for you now.
Okay, all right, let's go.
So, why do you think so many people, even ones that are really wealthy, struggle to align their money with their ideal life?
Great. Let me reflect on that and repeat it back to you. Why do so many people, given how wealthy we all are, struggle to? Did you say struggle to or fail to?
Struggle to align their money with their life, their ideal life.
Struggle to align their money with their ideal life. I think it's a really good question, and my first frame for it is back to, what is the fiduciary culture that we're in? And so, so from the first, there are many leaders who are dominated by, because they earn their money by being fiduciary simply to profit, to shareholders. And so they become the ones that we're competitive with, or that we read about in the news all the time. And so, have they aligned their life? They probably haven't had time to even think about their life, many of them, right? In some ways. And so that then filters down through the population. So in a way, we find ourselves all chasing the pound or the dollar. There's a wonderful saying that Confucius had when he was a thought leader in China, and China was broken into, I think, 7 different states. And the one of the governors came to him and said, "How come my people are thieving so much, are greedy and thieving?" And he looked at Confucius looked at the ruler and said, "That's really easy to answer. As soon as you stop thieving, as soon as you stop taking things that are not yours from your people, they will model themselves after your behavior." And so I think that a lot of the problem is that our kids now have superheroes. They don't have real heroes. And that's a sad thing. So I think that we've got work to do on our system to make that change.
Okay. So I said earlier, I would like to come back to meditation, right? Because this, in what you just said there in the answer to the previous question about how people are always thinking about the next pound or the next dollar, we're always thinking, aren't we, about something? And then during that, we miss. This is a great segue. I should work in TV.
Yes, it is. It's very well done.
We're always thinking, we've always got thoughts firing in his head, whether it's about pounds or birds or whatever it is, right? I try meditating. I meditate best, if you can call it that, when I'm walking. because otherwise I just can't keep it out. Should you give us some tips to stop having thoughts?
Yeah. And a couple of things. One is that it's not so much about not having thoughts as it is getting more and more into the practice of being unattached to your thoughts, meaning letting your thoughts go. So in every meditative practice that people have, they practice kind of letting the thoughts go and coming back to some object of meditation. So, for instance, for you in your walks, nature is an incredible teacher of meditation because nature brings us alive. The aromas, the movements of the body. We were talking about 100 million times as fast as thinking, our listening goes. Meditation is really about listening and with all of our bodies. So in nature, if you're doing your meditative walk, I would encourage you as part of that walk to really not go into ruminative thinking. You might want to, but see if you can bring yourself back just to this moment, just to this experience. And the more that you do that, the more you're actually practicing letting go of thinking. Um, and the other thing so in any meditation you come back, usually people come back to the feeling of the breath at the nostrils or at the belly, but there are many forms that you could take. And what people don't realize is that a bad meditation, one where you feel like, I can't stand it, that's actually a good meditation because what's happening is you're right at the cutting edge of in a way, your neuroses, your stresses, um, the way you're dysfunctional in the world. And if you stay with it and keep going back to the moment, whether it's a mantra, it's a saying, it's a phrase, it's a prayer, it's the sensation of the breath. The more that you practice that, it's cumulative, and you'll find that it grows in impact almost day after day as you begin to get into it. So I don't know if that really answered your question, but
But it does. So I walk to work, and I live in a suburban area, and
yeah,
it takes a bit longer, but I walk through a park where it's wooded. And I told you before we started this that I was listening to your songs on Spotify when when I was walking down the road because there's traffic
yeah,
and buses and stuff getting by. And then I stopped listening to that. Not because it was dreadful, it was good.
yeah,
but,
good.
but when I got through where it's wooded, and then I was trying to do some meditative walking, and I could really feel that the trees moving. It was a bit gusty this morning, and the sound, which I wouldn't normally hear, as I'm wandering along thinking about what I need to do today.
Right.
And I've then started to feel that in my body, um, the movement of in the breeze of these massive trees there are at this certain point of the walk.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it relaxed me a lot. It's just the contemplative kind of noises and feeling that movement, perhaps through my feet. Don't know, it's hard to describe really. Then normally I would just be thinking about stuff.
Right. Right. And that's why the gap between thinking and listening is a productivity gap, because if you are able to kind of open yourself the way you did at that time, you're gaining so much. You're gaining wisdom. You're gaining ease. You're gaining self confidence. You're gaining some quality of inspiration or happiness. You're gaining more functionality. You're gaining less reactivity. So nature is fabulous. And, sitting down and actually closing your eyes, as boring as it might seem, is kind of the root of it all because it's saying, I can do this anywhere and it will benefit me. Some people don't have the advantage that we have to go out in nature and experience it. But this is something that where your inner nature, it's really all about it's all about your senses either way. So meditation will do I think does wonders. People ask me sometimes, if I were to say one thing that was why I made this album on Spotify with my 16-year-old daughter when I was 72. It was so cool to
Was she
do.
only 16?
She was 16. I
Wow.
know.
Her voice
I-
doesn't sound like young.
no, it's a good voice, isn't it? It's a really strong voice, and I did that, and I've written 12 books, and um, and if people ask me what do I attribute it to, more often than not, I'll say I attribute it to doing meditation because it's made me clearer, more at ease, more creative. It's hard work. It's not hard. It's not easy. But the rewards are cumulative, and I stuck with it. So, for what it's worth, that's what I think.
In your book, The Three Domains of Freedom, it really struck me about how you get caught up in the past and the future and not thinking about now. And it's all the time, isn't it?
It is. It
It's
is.
only when,
And yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
so it's only when I read that and I thought, yes, that is all I'm ever thinking about. One or the other. Should have done that,
yeah.
or I need to do this.
Beautiful. Yeah, right on.
Nothing in between. It's a bit of a hammer blow to my head, that.
It's stunning because what you do when you realize that we've never experienced. I sometimes ask this trick question of audiences: have you ever experienced a moment of freedom in the past? Like walking in the woods, like you were just doing, or playing with your kids, or doing something creative. And I get everybody to raise their hand. I tell them it's a trick question because they all get it wrong because none of us have ever experienced anything in the past. The only time we experience anything is in the present moment. And so the present, and the same thing about the future. So the present moment actually has a higher order of reality to it than the past or the future. But we're focused on the future and we're focused on the past. If we shifted that to this higher order of reality, the present moment, I think there are lots of values that come. I think there's more virtue that's more available to us, more happiness, more creativity, more wisdom, all of those things.
Right, George, 50 minutes has flown by.
Woo!
Don't celebrate.
Oh no, I meant it's been wonderful.
I know.
Wow.
Anyway, I've had funny thinking. So I've got one last question, and this is for
Okay, yeah.
people out there who are thinking, you know
Yeah.
what, I need to start exploring life planning for myself.
Yeah.
Where should they begin?
Well, there are, if they're doing it for themselves, there are a number of books that I wrote that they could look at. And there's a website called lifeplanningforyou.com that's free. Certainly, there are many advisors in the United Kingdom that have studied my work. Some of them have become registered life planners, and they're quite accomplished at it. But others have studied other aspects of it. Um, so I think those would be the places that I would go.
Awesome. Thank George. I think it's fair to say this has been an education, not just for me, but mainly for me, but also for all our listeners and watchers. Thanks ever so much. I'll see you on one of your courses soon.
I look forward to it. I look forward to it, Steve.
Thanks, George.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. See you later.
Yeah. Bye-bye.